What if somebody trashes my house? I'm an out-of-state real estate investor. I'm buying Indiana real estate. That's who this series is for. What happens if somebody trashes my house? What's we got a few horror stories here, a few other questions to go through. Awesome mail here with my good friend Joe Crump. I'm going to cover these questions here. So, Joe, you want to go first? I know you've got stuff on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the what we have to do is okay. Everybody asks this question, so let's ask a few questions about it to really get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about our experience with this. So what's the most damage a tenant has ever done to one of your houses?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't plan on the. I saw you put that. I thought you were going to answer that.
Well,
I've had a lot actually. We've had foundation. I think probably one of the biggest issues is that we had a foundation that was that we had to actually go down to the foundation because they dug up some of the floorboards and there was a this is something I learned before. We had a problem that was not reported to us, and we had to do it with the water heater, and then they didn't actually put the floorboard up correctly, so the water heater was like on almost on the actual dirt beneath the house, and it stayed like that for 2 years. So a bunch of mistakes. We should have been there. We should have monitored the property. We should have had a better relationship with the tenant. But we ended up having to take out the floorboard and then redo the foundation. So that was a lot. That cost a lot.
so do you still have the house?
Yeah.
And has it made you money?
Yeah. See, that's a good question. You know the most important question is would I do it again? And the answer is yeah, I would. The thing I think that's probably the answer to everything we're gonna have here is if you understand going into it what to do, you'll be fine. Which is if you wait, you win. Right. So I was pissed off at the time, but ultimately, like if we look at safe houses, the algorithm that we look at $1,000 a month, a safe house makes you $1,000 a month forever, and that doubles every 10 to 15 years. So it's $2,000 a month basically into 10 to 15 years with an average safe house. So that cost us probably maybe $80,000. But when you look at it, it's only 40 months. So in the span of forever, it's like, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, however long, including the other repairs you're going to have. And that's a rare case. So I think
Yeah,
that's the way to look at
yeah,
it.
I think that's also the second point. You know, if you have a massive, because I've had properties damaged too. I had a tenant that had 20 dogs, and and the property manager that I had, this was in a different state, so I had a different property manager that that was maybe one of my less effective, let's just put it that way, property managers. And so she wasn't really paying attention. And when these people finally moved out, this house smelled awful, and we had to go in, rip out all the carpet, put kills on the wall and repaint the thing, and just basically redo the whole thing. And this was a brand new house when I bought it. So
Oh, wow.
it was only 10 years old when we finally did this.
How much did
And
that cost?
$7,000,
Oh, that's
ten
nothing.
thousand dollars. Yeah, this is on a property that was worth 150.
Oh,
And so we did this work, cleaned it all out, got all the all the stuff out of the thing, and re-rented it, and within a couple of months, and got it back on the market. And yeah, it was irritating and it was expensive at the time, and even if I had lost, and I didn't, but even if I had lost a full year of income on that property, it still would have been worth it just for the
yeah.
appreciation on that property, let alone the cash flow and the depreciation and the buy down on the note that I was getting every month. And I think that people always look at these investments and think, well, how does this compare with the stocks? Well, there is really no comparison. And we're going to do some deal dissections, videos, and show you exactly how these properties create return, and how you
Yeah.
can make a lot more money on deals like this than you can, investing in the stock market or in bonds or in
Yeah.
REITs or just about any other passive investment out there.
Yes. And so yeah, 7 grand, you said that's basically 7 months or 3.5 months, 10.5 year, after 10, 15 years. By the way, awesome mail, Joe Crump. Why should you listen to us? Collectively, we have about 50 years experience in real estate. We on our team over 100 years. None of that really means anything. We bought hundreds, we got help people, we've done hundreds, thousands of deals in 20 some countries, helped thousands of success stories. The only thing that really matters is the outcomes that we've had. We've had thousands of success stories in over 20 countries. So you should check that out. This process about how to do GRS or safe houses, how to turn $200,000 into $100,000 a year in passive income in 10 to 15 years. The bad news is you don't make any money in the meantime. The good news is you don't have to do anything. And so if you want more on that, go to bigria.com. Go to the first link in the description below. Uh, okay. So
So
yes,
if I can, I'll continue with this.
please.
So who does the work if the property gets damaged? And I think that that's one of the big concerns, that you're going to have to go in there and start swinging a hammer and painting and cleaning up people's trash and
Yeah.
unclogging their
Get the
plumbing.
call at 3 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And none of my tenants know who I am. I don't. I none of them have my phone number. None of them even know my name. My business or my properties are all under LLC names, so they don't even have access to me. They could track me down if they needed to, but I think out of over the last 20 years, I had one of my tenants track me down, and when they finally called me up,
You said that your tenants don't know your name.
oh, right.
Right. Right. Don't
So
nobody know who you are, Joe Crump. Right.
uh, everybody knows who you.
Right.
No, yeah, none of my tenants know who I am, and I remember one time I got a call from one of my tenants, and they had tracked me down, and they said, "Hey, I've got a problem here with your property manager. She's telling me this," and I said, "Well, that's accurate information. She's given you the correct information. She's the one that represents me, so you really need to talk to her about this." And the conversation was over. And that was the end of the conversation.
Your property manager's an asshole. Well, she's accurate.
And uh, so no, she was doing all the right things. I mean, she's good at what she does, and if you've got people that you can trust, that do the right thing and treat people fairly, and walk them through the process, and she's also flexible. If there's a
Yeah.
problem with things, or they can't make their payment, and if we don't evict them after 3 days, we try to work with them. We try to make it work, because it's when you're dealing with people's housing, evicting somebody is a big deal, and
Yeah.
at least it is for them. It's a big deal for us too, but it's a big deal for
Yeah.
them. So we want to be as patient as possible. Now we have a business that we have to support as well, and we have mortgages to pay and all that stuff too. So we have to keep it sustainable. And if our business is not sustainable for this house, then it's not sustainable for the other houses that we've got and all those tenants. So we have to keep that particular business. Each house is its own business. We have to keep that particular business viable and sustainable.
Yes. So what about that? When you're covering up, there are a few other questions we had here. So when we talk about how that property, how much money that property made that year, and then the following 10 years. So don't do the work yourself. How much property does it take? What is how much, what's the average property that a house gets how much wear and tear does a property go through? How much does that cost? And what if they do major damage? What if you lose a year of income or more than that?
It
And
depends
we'll
on
talk
the
about
house.
insurance.
Depends on the house. It depends on the weather. It depends on the type of tenant that you have. If you have good tenants, decent tenants in there, they'll take pretty good care of the property. But every one of them seems to drink red Kool-Aid, and they always spill it on the carpet. So
Yeah.
at least so you're always going to have problems like that, and so you go in and you try to clean it up and do the best you can. But one of the things that we started doing is we replaced most of the carpet in the house with like a wood floor of vinyl, which is very durable. It's a little bit,
LVP.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more expensive than carpet, but it looks nice. People like it. It's actually very popular. If you go into the model homes these days, for the new construction, that's what they're using. So and I think that if we'll show you some of these deal dissections that we've done, and we'll show you some of the properties and what they look like, because that flooring in the main living areas is what we use, and then we'll put carpet in the bedroom, and we typically will pick carpet that has variations in the color, so it's not all one solid color, so that if something gets spilled on it and it gets cleaned up, then it doesn't look quite as bad, and it'll last through more tenants. And typically, we'll be able to make it last 5, sometimes 10 years, before we have to replace carpet or even paint, depending on how long that tenant stays there.
Yeah. So what about insurance issues with insurance? How does insurance come into play with tenant damage?
Well, there's something called malicious damage, and it's vandalism. So somebody goes in there and kicks holes in the walls, or knocks doors off of hinges, or breaks windows, or puts graffiti on it. The stuff that's just intentional defacement. And that's considered vandalism, and that's illegal. And if they do that, then they could face fines, they could face jail time, in addition to paying restitution.
Yeah.
Which we're not expecting to be able to collect that money, but I think that um, if we have coverage for it, and different types of insurance policies have it, and so you need malicious damage coverage if you want that type of thing to be covered. And if you do, then there's usually a deductible. Maybe it's a $500 deductible, or whatever it is you've negotiated or paid for with your policy, and then they'll cover the rest of it. We've had that happen, where we've gotten money for it, and it's nice to get an insurance, your insurance on that. We try not to collect too much from our insurance policies,
Yeah.
uh, because they start to rate you and grade you. And as they do that, if you have a lower rating as an insurance user, then your insurance policies go up. So if you have a bunch of houses that have burned down, and they stop giving you insurance, so don't burn down your houses.
Yeah. You might want to write that down. So what about the obvious stuff like the background checks?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I was just talking to Laura just the other day, and she was talking about, oh, we have somebody they've got the money for the down payment, they've got this, they've got enough income, but they're currently in an eviction. I said, no, that doesn't work for us. So we don't take somebody who's been through an eviction. We want somebody, or at least not a recent eviction, and everybody should get a second chance at some point. But if they show a history of being evicted or other
Well,
big problems,
if they have a good reason to, if they have if they have a letter explaining that,
yeah,
if
yeah,
they're just blaming the landlord, that's one thing. But if they can explain it, that's, so we always take that.
yeah. So yeah, evictions are a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
But it's like everything. This is just a cost of doing business. And if you're I think that when we're doing background checks, we're going to get uh, references. And we want to go in and confirm them. We want to call their employers. We want to get either a deposit from them, or a lease option fee to cover expenses if they create problems. We want to take pictures of the property before they move in, so that we can see, yes, that refrigerator is there, that belongs
Yeah.
to us,
And
that
video.
stove, and also lets us know what the condition was when they moved in. And the document that they're signing with us is saying that they're going to leave it in, reasonably the same condition that they moved in with minor wear and tear. And so we try to set expectations. They know we've got pictures of everything. If they don't do that, they don't get their deposit back, or they potentially could, have a lawsuit from us, trying to collect damages on the property.
Yes. Okay. So that
Oh,
I have,
one other thing, let me add on that.
yeah.
Security alarms. We've been installing security systems in almost all of our houses these days.
Yeah.
And they have security systems that are wireless, so it doesn't have to have an internet connection to turn them on. And they cost like $40 a month, but it's been really helpful to have those there because every time the door opens, it shows up on the property manager's cell phone. So I see that somebody just walked into that house. So she knows when people go in and out of a house, especially when it's vacant. And between, when the tenant moves in, and that's mainly good for vacancies and keeping from people from stealing our refrigerators, which seem to happen a lot of. They kick in the back door and then
Yeah.
they steal the refrigerator. Uh,
Appliances. Yeah.
Appliances, yeah. So, and then of course they would drag it across the vinyl in the kitchens and rip up the vinyl
Yeah.
as well. So, but once we put in these security systems, that stopped, and now we haven't lost an appliance or had vandalism or damage like that in years because of that over many properties. So it's worth the $40 a month, and then we pass that $40 a month on to the tenant and ask them to pay for it when they move in. So it's really helpful, and
That's interesting.
it also helps us make when we're doing showings, because we do a lot of remote showings where
Yeah.
people go into the property. We'll know if they're going into the house. We'll give them the code, the passcode to get in. They can put it in, and then we ask them to turn it back on again. And we know, the whoever's showing that property will know by looking at their cell phone that yes, that door got shut and they got locked.
So are you putting up signs that say it's under surveillance and under camera surveillance? Uh, why is
Ye-
it stopping? Because we had to put really loud sirens, basically, alarms on the house that go off anytime that door is open. That's how we cut down our um the people going in and stealing appliances and stuff. Did you ever have to do anything like that?
Well, that's how those alarms work. So if they come in without putting in the code, the alarm goes off.
Oh, the audible alarm. Okay,
Yeah, so
I thought you meant just their main. Okay,
it
yeah,
screams. It's
yeah, yeah.
really
Okay,
loud.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
it also sends a message to the police department,
yeah. Perfect.
and it sends a message to the property manager. So it's not just the property manager. They're not going to run over there when somebody breaks into the house. They're going to
Right,
let the police
right.
go
Yeah,
deal with it. And
yeah,
the police show up, and that's what, that's kind of what solves the problem. And
yeah.
we've had people, and yeah, those signs in the front really help. This
Surveillance. Yeah.
or, yeah,
Sometimes those get stolen too. We've had those. So nothing helped more than getting the audible, the loud screeching. That actually does do a lot,
yeah,
because they can go move quickly. But and if you get them on camera, they're just all you're going to see is that just their face covered, and they'll put trash bags over the license plate and stuff. So it's a
yeah,
lot easier if it's just loud and it stops them right there because it's hard to drag stuff out when there's screaming going on. So
yeah.
that's helpful.
And again, I've had, before we implemented this, I've had plenty of appliances and things stolen out of my houses,
Yeah.
and I still have those houses, and they're still going up in value, and I'm still making money on them. And it's just a cost of doing business. That if you own the Walmart store, down the street, that there's a certain amount of stuff that gets stolen, and they just figure that into their bottom line.
Yes. Okay, so that's your. I made some notes of my answer. Is that the completion of your answer? What
Yeah,
happens if someone trashes my house? Okay. All right, so I made a few notes too. Actually, I was reading this book, The Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. This is an interesting, a good setup for this, how to deal with someone trashing your house. It's kind of what we're talking about here. It's puzzling to me that so many self-help gurus urge people to visualize victory and stop there. Some people even insist that if you wish for good things long enough and hard enough, you'll get them, and that's all you have to do. Conversely, that if you focus on the negative, you'll actually invite bad things to happen. Why make yourself miserable worrying? Why waste time getting ready for disasters that may never happen? Anticipating problems and figuring out how to solve them is actually the opposite of worrying. It's productive. My optimism and confidence come not from feeling I'm luckier than other mortals, and they sure don't come from visualizing victory. They're the result of a lifetime spent visualizing defeat and figuring out how to prevent it. Like most astronauts, I'm pretty sure that I can deal with what life throws at me because I've thought about what to do if things go wrong as well as right. That's the power of negative thinking. And I say that because we have a saying we use, there's no such thing as bad weather, there's only bad clothing. And if when this is probably one of the biggest concerns people have. Would you say, Joe, like the what if someone traps in my house? I'm out of the state, or it's like one of the top fears people have. But it's not about whether or not it's going to happen. It's going to, one of the you asked me about the biggest problem I had, and you've had a much less expensive problem. But even then, it's not like we would regret it or that we would say you shouldn't do it. And that really is the answer to all of this stuff, is that you want to be prepared for it. So what happens if somebody trashes my house? The bottom line is you're going to pay for it. This is a risk, but we can do things to limit it. If or when it happens, you want to be prepared. So we want, like, basically when we look for tenants, we're looking for tenants that are nurses with no kids, nurses because they're never home and they don't have kids, ideally. But our tenant selection is going to be an important part of this. There's obvious stuff we can do: screen tenants, screen management. Above all, keep reserves, keep your cash in there, have good income and good money so that you can pay for anything that comes up. Those three things are the obvious things: screen your tenants, screen your
Uh,
management, and keep your,
Reserves, yeah,
yeah,
reserves should be a big one on your list.
yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
you always got to have something set aside for that rainy day fund.
Yeah, so if you're setting aside a couple $100 a month, that's a lot easier than all of a sudden getting hit up for $7,000 because you got to fix something. And the not that's the obvious stuff. The not as obvious stuff here are the maintain tight relationships with tenants. We go above and beyond with our tenants. So me being really good at math changed my life, and it's one of the first things I tell all tenants with kids: make sure your kids are good at math. Get them tested to be really good at math, because if once people in school think they're geniuses, they're going to be treated like geniuses. They're going to act like it. It's going to affect their entire life. So we actually hire tutors for a lot of our tenants to get their kids to help their kids out. We do this with pretty much all of our clients. We help them with their credit. We talk about going to Credit Karma, getting credit cards, building up their credit. We help them with job interviews, job placement. What do they want to do? What's the long-term thing that they want to do? These are the relationship we have with our tenants is super tight. One of the examples this never happened to me. Joe asked me earlier what the most expensive thing that happened was. I know tenants who, when they got pissed at their landlord, they started flushing concrete down the toilet. If you don't know what that does, it settles about 15 to 20 feet away from it's basically impossible to get out. You have to redo all the plumbing. It could cost $100,000 to fix. And you might think, well, I could sue them. I could go after them. These are people who are not concerned about that. These are people, they don't care. And you go after them for everything. And when someone's losing their house, you got to put yourself in that mentality. If they're losing their house, the renter's already, there's still COVID evictions happening right now. So there are people that know the law very well. They don't really care. They check out. I've had tenants that did that to other people. They didn't do that to us. And I've asked them, why didn't you do it? And they said, because we had a good relationship. We were nice to them. This is probably one of the biggest secrets there is that you have to have a tight relationship with your tenants, you and your property manager, a really good relationship. The reason my situation cost me 80 grand versus just a few $1,000s would have been the time. If they told me earlier, it's just like with your health diagnosis. Think of your properties as like bodies, just like your body. The early diagnosis is the key to fixing it. So you want to have a good relationship with your tenants. We do a lot of stuff for all of our tenants, for all of our heroes, for our GRS program. We do this is the same policies we apply with you. We fall in love with our tenants. They will love us. Connect with neighbors and have presence in the area. So we do all kinds of fun stuff with neighbors. We do one of the first things we do. It's a good lead generator is we do a tug of war with cops and firefighters in neighborhoods. And then when they promote it, they go to all the neighbors in the area with a flyer to raise money for charity. And on the back, it's our ad, Cash for Houses, I Buy Homes. We are the big sponsor, and we can sell that, to sell sponsorships to other people, and they pay for this tug of war. That's one thing we do in neighborhoods that really helps. It helps us get to know the neighbors. We want to know that because if the neighbors have a problem with the tenant, they will let you know. They'll say, hey, you know what? They party late at night. They're doing this and that. So you want to have a good relationship with the neighbors, not just the tenants. Number 3 is have regular marketing and be able to replace them. You need to be marketing that property immediately and constantly. For buyers, we do something called the lender agent model. So we market for buyers in all of our properties and renters and lease option tenants. You never understand how tolerant you are of a problem until you know how easily you can replace it. When you know you can find another lease option tenant or another buyer, another renter really quickly, you're not going to tolerate a lot of BS. And so but if you have to start over, it also gives you a good sense of the value, how much your home's really worth. So we try to keep marketing going at least once a year, twice a year in any given neighborhood. We can make money on the leads, but that's something you or your management should do. And if you do those 3 things, you should be a lot better. One thing we're talking about: credit karma and getting pre-approvals. So we help our tenants buy properties, which seems counterintuitive, but we get them in Credit Karma, help them improve their credit, get them with a lender, and get a contingent pre-approval, which means the lender will pull up their credit and look at it and say, if you do these things, we should be able to get you approved for a loan. So we put that on the horizon. You want to buy a house? Let's help you buy a house. We can help you do that. Maybe 1 or 2 years later, and we help them do that. We hear from people all the time. You guys are the only landlords that ever helped me buy a house, help me improve my credit, and help me get a card, help me buy, buy things on, we tell you which credit cards to buy, which one have the best perks. And, that helps with Christmas gifts too. It helps you buy better gifts for your kids because you're going to get some of that money back. We help them pay their rent with credit cards as well. That helps we report their rental payments to their credit bureaus. We can help them build their credit that way as well. And then future proof contracting. This is important. What Joe was talking about earlier with the improvements to a house, you will treat a house totally differently if it's a client of yours and you're a property manager than if you believe that's going to be your house for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then your kids are going to have it for 50 years. You're going to look at it totally differently. You're not just going to improve the facial part of it, the surface level. You're going to go deep and make sure the problems are fixed. That's what you want to have. You want to have a property manager that comes to you and says, you could fix this problem for 2,000, but we would recommend you spend the 12,000 to replace the whole roof because you might as well, or something like that. So those 5 things that are not as obvious: maintain tight relationships with the tenants, maintain tight relationships with the neighbors. Number 3, have regular marketing to be able to replace them. Number 4, Credit Karma pre-approvals, help them buy. And number 5, future-proof contracting. Most importantly, last thing here is focus on the long term. Like Joe asked me, the beautiful questions. The first question to ask was, how much money do you still own the property? How much money did you make? Did you eventually make your money back? No matter what happens, you guys, if you buy correctly and you wait, you will win, guaranteed. So focus on the long term, and it helps you absorb these things, these costs, and you don't freak out and go nuts, and you will be able to invest and understand what you're doing. At $1,000 to $2,000 a month forever, what really matters? You're eventually going to make your money back. Always tell yourself that eventually I'll make this money back, whatever happens. And number 3, develop income and resources to absorb challenges with a smile. Whether you're doing active investing or you're doing passive investing, you want to have good income and good money. So any of these challenges that do come up, you can absorb with a smile, and it ain't no thing. It's not going to ruin your day. And that's going to come down to your mentality, really, the way that you look at it. So that's my answer on what to do if someone trashes your house. What do you think, Joe? Good?
Perfect.
Anything to
Perfect.
add? Okay, nothing to add to it?
I think we covered this one pretty
Okay.
comprehensively.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's if you're an out-of-state investor, that's how you do. What happens if someone trashes your Indiana real estate? Go to the link below, apply, turn 200K into 100K a month passive forever. We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks.